Ideal for you. She giggled in a terrible, high-pitched witch's voice as I took the seat she indicated. There was a rusty folding chair and a wooden table blackened with mold at the assigned seat. It also appeared almost like a trash dump because of the numerous trash bags from corner stores and the stacks of outdated periodicals that were scattered about. I'd assume she still believes I'm impoverished. For the first time, I realized why she was insisting that I attend the reunion. She wanted to surprise me by calling me there and then make fun of me for being a poor guy, just as in the past. Always, regret strikes too late. That was all it took for me to decide to leave the arena. She could never have predicted that she would soon experience the worst tragedy and hopelessness of her life. My name is Ryan. I'm 45 years old and unmarried. In addition to earning a respectable wage and leading a happy life, my job is hectic yet enjoyable. I was raised by a single parent and experienced extreme poverty as a child after losing my father to illness when I was 5 years old. I had trouble affording clothes, so I wore my shoes until they were absolutely worn out. When I started primary school, even my school bag was a hand-me-down from someone else. My classmates never made fun of me and were always nice to me in spite of that. During middle school, this bond persisted and evolved. I even believed that these lovely days would never end. But I decided to get a job, while my friends went on to high school, of course. After being unwell, my mother was unable to work. She urged me to finish my schooling, but I obstinately declined and entered the workforce before everyone else. I began sorting parts in a nearby manufacturer after I graduated. After that, I changed occupations a few times until landing in my current position. I was left without relatives after my mother died when I was 20 years old. Something happened right when I started to feel like living as a confirmed bachelor wasn't all that horrible. I received a call on my cell phone one day. It came from Tom, a buddy from middle school. Thomas, Ryan, long time not seen. How are you doing? I smiled to hear an old friend's familiar voice. It has indeed been a while. We met at your wedding, isn't that right? Yes, it is correct. I appreciate you returning then. How is the work progressing? Well, it's just okay. I felt as though I had briefly time-traveled back to my middle school days when chatting with my old friend. So, what's going on today? Actually, next month is our class reunion. I am the one who arranges. Are you coming? I take it. I uttered, I'm not sure, remembering a really unpleasant and depressing incident. What's not right? Is Maria Johnson involved? Yes, Johnson was a classmate who harassed me verbally and repeatedly. She came from an extremely rich family. Her father owned Johnson Industries, the biggest business in the area. I must have seemed like the perfect target to someone like her, someone who personified poverty perfectly. She ridiculed my appearance, my possessions, my attire, and occasionally even my mother. One day, there was an incident in our classroom. Look, everyone. Ryan has a cotton pencil case. Where can one ever get something that antiquated? Incredible. Return it. This memento was given to me by my father. Oh, really? Ryan, you can't even get a new pencil case. Mom must not give a damn about you. She wouldn't allow her child to carry such a filthy item if she were my mother. Perhaps she is not very fond of you. As Johnson said, the girls around him started giggling. I gnawed on my lip, unable to speak. She go one step further and threw my pencil case in the garbage. According to my dad, those in poverty are evidence of lazy work. It's also likely that Ryan's mother doesn't strive hard enough. Children are also exposed to that kind of thing. I was the one who was most aware of my mother's laborious efforts. I thrust up my fist, incensed at her for demeaning my mother. Ryan, stop. I would have played directly into her hands if I had fought back, but Tom intervened in time to stop me. Johnson's parents had ties to the school board and were well known in the PTA. Tom was aware that my situation would only worsen if I made a mistake here. I was so frustrated that I had to drop my fist and put it back in my pocket. She simply grew more haughty upon realizing that I wouldn't strike back, and I remained her target until graduation. My only comfort was that, except from Johnson and her group, everyone else treated me like a regular buddy. My mind was filled with bad recollections, and Tom and I were silent for a bit. It's likely that Johnson won't be there because I heard a report that she studied overseas not too long ago. You want to see everyone, don't you think? I can't be certain without confirmation, so please come. My chest constricted at what Tom said. Even while I was excited to meet old pals, I really didn't want to see someone I still hadn't worked things out with. I apologize, but I need to give it some more thought. I got it. I hope you respond positively, but I won't press. Tom, I appreciate you inviting me, I said as I hung up the phone. It was difficult to choose between my reluctance to meet Johnson and my wish to visit old pals. I made the decision to stop at a street-side cafe one day while coming back from an excursion. I walked in the 86 degrees heat, drenched in sweat, and sat down to order an iced coffee. A person seated in front of me spoke up while I was waiting. Ryan? It was none other than Maria Johnson, an individual I will always remember. I froze for a second, then averted my gaze from her. Inexplicable emotions welled up in my head as I thought back on her many tortures. Oh, it's been a while. What a coincidence, I said, struggling to speak, and Johnson greeted me right away. I really apologize for what I did at that time. I sincerely apologize for that. It surprised me that she suddenly apologized. After 30 years, I never expected to be apologized to, especially in a place like this. I mistreated you horribly. I've always wanted to say sorry, but I lacked the bravery. I've heard that a reunion is imminent. I was concerned that you could miss it as a result of me. Johnson had tears in his eyes. She seemed to be really sorry. Up until recently, I was studying abroad in America. There, I volunteered and gained a lot of experience. I was reminded of you by that. Me? Indeed. I felt ashamed when I learned how mistaken I had been. I had to apologize, so even if you don't forgive me, I had to return. I was shocked that she had returned merely to offer me an apology. I was unable to remain enraged at her for going to such extent. It's all right. That was 30 years in the past. I repeated that to Johnson, and his countenance brightened. Are you serious? Will you pardon me? Yes, if you offer a sincere apology. I'm going to let it go. You're really nice, Ryan. Thank you very much. How could I have treated someone like you so horribly? I couldn't help but smile at Johnson's theatrical motions as she was speaking. Ryan, it's truly a coincidence, isn't it? Are you a local? No, I just stopped by for work. I see. I continued to reside at my parents' home. That's when I discovered we were not far from my hometown. I didn't give it much thought because I hadn't been back in a long. Well, I must depart. You must attend the reunion. I'm excited about it. Yes, Johnson answered, see you then, and walked out of the store. She seemed really friendly, and even with her advanced age, she no longer exuded that poisonous aura. I whispered to myself that people do indeed change. I got in touch with Tom right away to let him know I would be attending the reunion. The day of the reunion then came. Tom and I headed to the event once we met at the station. Shouldn't you get there early since you're the organizer? It's all right. I wanted to chat to you, so I requested the others to take care of the preparations. Tom and I strolled, chatting about different experiences. I told him about my experience with Johnson among them. That Johnson stated that is unbelievable. Though a lot transpired, I've made the decision to go on. Let's enjoy today then. However, Tom appeared perplexed as soon as we got to the location. That seemed strange. The decorations don't look like what we had in mind. Large teddy bear sculptures, a ton of wreaths suggestive of a store opening, and bright pink tablecloths all decorated the space. The opulent hotel setting was completely out of character for the decorations. It has a rather unique atmosphere, doesn't it? Tom went straight up to another organizer and asked for an explanation. Richard Miller, one of the organizers, then raised his hand. Actually, Johnson abruptly demanded to take on the role of organizer for the decorations. We gave it to her because she assured us she would cover all expenses. It never occurred to me that it would go this way. Nevertheless, we really can't complain because she did it. Richard forced a smile and did his best to support Johnson. I recalled that Richard was employed by a Johnson Industries subcontractor, and that Johnson was the daughter of the president of Johnson Industries, the biggest business in the region. I glanced at Tom, feeling uncomfortable. Then, from behind the venue, a booming voice could be heard. "Ryan Tuffer, I was holding out for you. I have a certain seat reserved for you. Please come on over." Johnson had already taken a few drinks, and his face was flushed. She looked meaner than when she was in middle school, unlike the prior time. A handful of her classmates gave me strange smiles. In the farthest corner of the room, a seat was ready. "Please, without hesitation, take a seat. Isn't that more elegant than the table in your humble abode?" Johnson laughed aloud, while some others feigned courteous giggles in response. "Perfect for you." Her voice sounded like a witch's, shrill and ugly as she chuckled as I took my place at the assigned seat. There was a rusty folding chair and a wooden, mold-ridden table at the seat. It almost appeared like a trash dump because of the numerous trash bags from corner stores and the stacks of outdated periodicals that were scattered about. This is ideal for someone in your situation. I'm really happy that I made you come. Whoa, this is really funny. I'd assume she still believes I'm impoverished. It finally made sense to me why Mom had urged that I attend the reunion. She intended to surprise me, call me to the reunion, and make fun of me for being a poor guy like he used to be. I tried not to burst out laughing as I considered how I could surprise her. Something occurred to me. Regret always comes too late. That was all it took for me to decide to leave the arena. She was completely unaware that she was going to experience the biggest disaster and despair of her life. I turned to the horrified Tom and said I was going out. Although Tom was furious with Johnson's deeds and remarks, he was unable to just leave because he was an organizer. What led to this situation? Ryan, I apologize. I'm to blame for not being more meticulous. Keep her out of your hair. Let's have fun. You traveled a great distance. Though I was grateful for Tom's sentiments, I had to leave. All I wanted to do was get out of there because I felt disgusted with myself for not believing her apology from the beginning. You're not to blame. Don't stress over it. Even so, Johnson Industries has a significant impact. I could see by the looks around her that a large number of our classmates had stayed in the city and were making good use of Johnson Industries. Putting their livelihoods in jeopardy, they would defy the president's daughter. This worry prevented anyone from criticizing her. That was the extent of the company's power. Johnson turned up her voice to make herself heard as I was speaking with Tom. People in poverty are very pitiful. Are you all in agreement? Her voice was only noise to me now, and I stared from a distance, my eyes frozen. I'll knock her off her pedestal soon, was the notion that kept running through my head. Sorry, Tom. I just realized that I need to get some work done. I'll see you later. Doing work on Sundays? That is difficult. Be careful traveling back home. After saying goodbye to Tom, I quickly caught a taxi back to the office. I didn't have the energy to ride the train home, even if the taxi ticket was $100. I worked alone in the empty office. I had to get ready for a $10 million business meeting that was coming up the next day. I was filled with excitement for tomorrow as I went over the materials. I went to the meeting the following day. I chose to handle it myself, even though the sales representative would normally go. My target, Johnson Industries, was reached. Daniel Johnson, the president, offered me a big smile when I introduced myself at the reception. It is a pleasure to have you present for the meeting, President Ryan. Let's get started. I'd like to get right to the subject. Daniel seemed perplexed by my abrupt answer. I was so chilly, especially for a $10 million contract, that he must have questioned why. As soon as I walked into the president's office, I declared, The deal is off. What? He seems really startled by my abrupt suggestion. He would be, of course. A $10 million transaction is hard to pass up, even for Johnson Industries. What in the world is happening? Why the abrupt alteration? We found a company with better terms than yours. I apologize. We chose to accompany them. Hold on, you can't just throw this at us without warning. Such a contract cancellation is utterly irrational. Daniel was a snappy person, as I had anticipated. He had a reputation for being obedient to superiors while treating staff members and subcontractors badly. There were even whispers that he would resort to any methods necessary to achieve his goals if they didn't go his way. Your business has a strong presence in this field. The villagers have undoubtedly benefited significantly, obviously. With $10 million in revenue annually, we are the highest in the area. But our business wants to grow internationally. It is our policy to engage in more business relations with global corporations as opposed to just local ones. After hearing this, Daniel appeared to have a light bulb moment and exclaimed, "My daughter Maria is my secretary, then. She studied in America and has a lot of talent. After all, we are living in the globalization era. Come on, Maria." He gestured to the secretary's office, which was adjacent to the president's office. Before long, Johnson looked worn out. "What is it, Dad? Right now, I'm occupied doing my nails." "Go ahead, Maria. Welcome our visitor. You speak English well, right? Globalization is upon us." "What is that? What is globalization, and why can't I speak English?" A fresh creative. Daniel's expression paled at his daughter's answer. Johnson hadn't spotted me yet. She was still examining her nails. "What are you saying, Maria?" "Dad, why are you being so agitated?" When she finally saw me, she smirked, ignoring her father's words. "Ryan, why are you in this place? Are you here because you're impoverished and want to ask my dad for a job? You know, we don't hire impoverished people." Johnson didn't seem to be realizing how big of a mistake she'd had made. Daniel cupped his hands around his head. I ignored this and carried on. "I appreciate you yesterday. I'm here now to terminate our $10 million deal." $10 million? How on earth did you end up here? As the CEO, I come to let you know that we will not be signing the deal. Was it challenging to comprehend in English? I grinned as I stated. Johnson's cheeks glowed scarlet. She appeared to be aware that I was making fun of her. "Who is this guy, Dad?" "I'm the business secretary, and he's treating me so badly." "Oh, so this is Johnson's secretary. Someone like you being hired as a secretary by a corporation like that had to be quite low level." "I'm especially happier that we won't be signing the deal," I said quietly. "No company that employs someone who doesn't even understand the term globalization has a future." I had a sneaking suspicion that she was probably wasting much of her time having fun while purportedly studying overseas. "Stop being so silly. You miserable loser, are you trying to offend me? Father, send him packing. This gentleman, Maria, is Ryan Corporation's president. Avoid being impolite." "What is Ryan Corporation? What sort of obscure business is that?" Johnson's still glaring down at me, but my next statement made her realize what was going on. "The nail polish you're wearing, the manicure products, even the clothes you're wearing, they were all designed and sold by my company. Stop being so silly. This came straight from France. The US does not sell it. It's sold in France. Yes, we worked with a French designer. You are welcome to verify for yourself." Johnson heard this, took off her gown, and looked at the tag, TKD. Is Ryan the person in question? She was unable to comprehend that I was the person behind the brand she adored, there in front of her. "Dad, is Ryan Corporation truly that large of a business? Greater than what we have here? No matter how hard we tried, we were never able to match their level. Now please apologize right away." Daniel nudged his daughter subtly, attempting to read my mind. If she apologized, it wouldn't change my decision not to sign the contract. Last year's revenue was about $100 million, if I recall. $100 million? That isn't feasible. At last it occurred to her that the person she denigrated as being beneath her was actually much above her. This isn't possible. He was so low income that he was unable to purchase a pencil case. Due to his mother's illness, he did not complete high school. How could an individual of that caliber establish a brand in France and earn $100 million annually? It makes sense that it would be difficult to accept. The pivotal moment came when, after middle school, I started working for a company that handled fashion items at a new plant in addition to industrial things like screws and bolts. I was selected to work in the startup division and got to work researching and studying fashion while actively coming up with ideas that worked. Later, at the age of 28, I made the decision to pursue my interest in fashion more seriously. So I left my job to enroll in a language program in France by myself. I studied Western fashion in school, and when I got back to the US, I launched my own business on my own dime. My business had difficult beginnings, but I overcame them by using social media and internet sales to gradually grow my clientele and achieve my current success. My colleagues from my academic days were instrumental in the success of the brand venture in France. Anyway, do take a second look and sign the agreement. I implore you. I say no. Please pardon me now, I murmured as I got up to go. Daniel tried to stop me by clinging to me. Wait a moment. Our business is vulnerable. If you terminate the agreement right away. That's not my concern. I dismissed Daniel icily. Johnson angrily objected, saying, "How could you? How are you treating my father? You're awful." I gave her those words back. You're the horrible one. Johnson was surprised at how aloof I was. I departed the company, leaving the shocked father and daughter in the president's office. I got a call from an unknown number on my personal phone a week later. "Hey, we're about to lose our business. How did you act?" Johnson's harsh voice was his. My number must have been forced to her by one of our classmates. "I have no idea what you're discussing. I should be asking you, if anything. Why do you believe it is my fault that your firm is failing? Avoid being a moron. Did you not terminate the $10 million contract? Obviously, that's the reason. Since then, my dad has been frantically attempting to make things right. We have the right to accept or reject a contract. That is the nature of business." Johnson persisted in berating me, refusing to accept my explanation. "It's not even $10 million. Simply sign the agreement. I'll accept my apology for the last incident, and let's call it even." I decline. I'll never do business with your organization once more. That's all right. Finn. I hung up, seeing no use in carrying on the chat. Then, over the phone, I heard her yell. "Wait a moment." I apologized sincerely. I know I pushed it too far. I simply lost my mind since I was inebriated. I sincerely apologize. Johnson's heartbroken apology was audible to me, but who was really duped by the same trick twice? "I'd heard, Johnson, that you aspired to be an actor. It makes sense why you act so well," I said. She performed with tears and exaggerated reactions, much like an actress on stage. I contacted some acquaintances who lived in the area about her after terminating the lease. She traveled to New York to pursue acting after high school and signed up with a talent agency, but her career never really took off. Fortunately, she didn't have to worry about money because of her family's affluence and could enjoy city life. But because she was 35 years old, the agency fired her and advised her to go a different route. Lost in life, she once more turned to her family's finances and traveled to study in America. She spent her time partying rather than studying. Her parents eventually gave her a call again and offered her a menial job as a secretary, living under their watchful eye. It must be devastating for her parents to see her at 45 and still be so naive and pampered. Why would you say things like that? I apologize sincerely, Ryan. You're quite unkind, she cried. What is the duration of your act? Your organization will not be saved by your apology, no matter how heartfelt. Perhaps you ought to assist your father rather than squandering time in this manner. I replied coolly. I could sense Johnson's irritation mounting as I spoke. Because you became a CEO, don't get arrogant. A revenue of $100 million is nothing. Your business is a tenth of its magnitude. She lost her temper. Enough already. This is something you'll regret. She gave a stern last ring before hanging up. Johnson was undoubtedly furious at the moment. Satisfied to some extent, I went back to work. Tom called me a few days later and broke some startling news. Have you seen the news, Ryan? Accounting fraud is occurring at Johnson Industries. It's on TV nonstop. Indeed, I'm observing it. Thus, it was eventually revealed. The act of a firm falsifying its financial accounts to present a more favorable image of its financial situation is known as accounting fraud. If this is the company's last resort, it is about to fail. My lack of astonishment seemed to be giving Tom something to detect. He said, "Did you report them?" Obviously not. External parties are unable to view their financial details. An insider must have been the source of the information. I was the one who pushed it, even though the whistleblower was someone from Johnson Industries. Richard was employed as a subcontractor at Johnson Industries and organized the reunion. When I realized this, I got in touch with him right once and urged him to look into the fraud at Johnson Industries. The current condition was discovered as a result of this. The revelation severely distressed Richard, who was always the class president with the most earnestness. For the sake of his livelihood, he had put up with a lot of injustices, but he could not stand the deception of his principal contractor. So he made the decision, with a few colleagues' assistance, to raise the alarm. From then, it was really simple. As soon as the scam was discovered, Johnson Industries was plunged into turmoil. Johnson called me again after a little bit. What should we do at this point? The media is crowding our house, and Dad is with the cops. I can't even go with Mom. You are alone to blame, she sobbed. I have nothing to do with the deception your father did. He did this on his own. None of this would have occurred if you had accepted the $10 million contract. Why do you want to wreck other people's lives? By the end, Johnson was almost in tears. Most likely, this wasn't an act. I apologize for all of it. Please take action to assist us, she begged, sounding frantic. I'm begging you, she said. But I was not going to forgive her. That's why I told you, regret always comes too late. I think she finally got what I was saying. I ended the call after saying that and blocking her number. There was no reason to get involved anymore. After 30 years, I finally got my retribution, and it made me feel a little relieved. The president of Johnson Industries, Daniel Johnson, was then taken into custody on suspicion of fraud. It was discovered that he had cheated on his taxes in order to obtain big loans from banks. The company went bankrupt as a result of the arrests of Johnson's mother, an executive, and other board members as accomplices. The community was rocked by the biggest company in the area collapsing. Johnson, who had always acted haughtily by abusing her father's position, was abandoned and turned into a social outcast. She was left with nothing after selling the firm land and house because she had no one to defend her and was unable to pay back the enormous debts and compensation demands from creditors. It was anyone's guess as to how a 45-year-old woman with no experience or abilities would pay back such a loan. She was ignored by everyone and got no assistance. These must be terrible days for someone who had been at the top. She eventually relocated from her opulent mansion to a modest $350 a month condominium. She began working part-time as a deli cook at a supermarket 5 stations away from her hometown in order to make ends meet. To avoid being identified as the daughter of Johnson Industries, she worked in the rear. She had never held a real work before, though, so she faltered in her relationships fast and left after only a month. She now barely makes ends meet with night jobs and day ones. I questioned if I would have continued if her apology from the cafe had been sincere. Then it hit me. Everything was a product of her own behavior. I terminated the agreement due to a business choice that had nothing to do with her personally, and the company's deception proved to be its undoing. I've been convinced by this experience that people are always responsible for the things they do. She should be thinking back and making an effort to lead a decent life, I hope. In my case, I capitalized on Johnson Industries' bankruptcy by purchasing the site and opening a branch office there, hiring personnel from Johnson Industries. With the building of the new branch and the creation of a new department, I am currently incredibly busy. Tom gave me another call after about a month. We intend to have another reunion. Ryan, you must attend this time. Then allow me to pay for the costs this time. I was considering giving the organizing to Richard. Is that acceptable? That's fine, but were you and Richard that close? Richard actually began working for me as the head of the accounting department after that. I wanted him to work for my company because I respected his bravery in coming out with information against his own company out of a sense of justice. Ryan. No, I mean President. Thank you so much for taking someone like me in. Let's avoid speaking incoherently. As the coordinator, I am depending on you. Let's turn this reunion into one to remember. Richard and I shook hands firmly, and I went back to work excited about our impending rendezvous. My motivation to work increased even further.